Dog won't stop barking at vending machine. What police find inside leaves everyone horrified. The rhythmic click of nails against polished concrete echoed through Peachtree Street's renovated shopping district as Max led his routine patrol. Sarah Collins watched her partner's movements with practiced attention, noting how his ears twitched at each passing sound. 6 years together had taught her to read every subtle shift in the Belgian Malinois' behavior. The night was unusually warm for April, and the modern storefronts gleamed under the new LED street lighting, another piece of Atlanta's ambitious urban renewal project. The same initiative that had brought the sleek vending machines now dotting the commercial district, their illuminated displays casting blue-white glows across the sidewalk. Max's pace changed so suddenly that Sarah nearly missed it. One moment they were passing the newest vending installation, and the next, Max froze mid-stride, his nose lifting sharply toward the machine. "What is it, boy?" Sarah kept her voice low, more of a whisper than a command. Max's only response was to lower his head, his body tensing as he took several deliberate sniffs near the machine's base. Sarah clicked her flashlight on, sweeping the beam across the vending machine's pristine surface. Everything looked normal. Too normal, perhaps. The machine had been installed just 2 weeks ago, part of the Smart City initiative that had been making headlines. Its touchscreen display advertised everything from energy drinks to healthy snacks, all available at the tap of a card. Then Max started barking. It wasn't his usual alert bark, the one Sarah had heard countless times during training exercises. This was different, urgent, insistent, almost angry. She'd only heard him like this once before, during a drug bust that had gone sideways and nearly cost them both their lives. "K9 unit to dispatch," Sarah spoke into her radio, keeping one hand ready on her holster. "I need a supervisor at my location. Possible suspicious activity at grid point 23A, new vending installation." "Copy that, K9. Be advised, that's private property now. Smart City contract requires a warrant for any inspection." Sarah watched as Max circled the machine, his barking growing more intense. "Dispatch, my partner is showing strong alert behavior. I'm invoking probable cause." A subtle vibration caught her attention, not from her radio, but from the machine itself. In the silence between Max's barks, she could hear a low hum, just slightly off pitch from what you'd expect from a normal refrigeration unit. "Max, watch." Sarah approached the machine carefully, running her hands along its edges. The metal was cool to the touch, but something felt wrong about the seams. They were too deep, too precisely engineered for a simple vending machine. Max's barking suddenly shifted to a low growl, his attention fixed on the right side panel. Sarah pulled out her phone, opening the ATLPD database to cross-reference the machine's serial number. The registration showed up immediately. Atlanta Smart Solutions LLC, installed April 1st, certified by... Her thought process froze. The certification signature belonged to Captain Martinez, her direct supervisor. Since when did a precinct captain sign off on vending machine permits? "K9 unit, be advised. Captain Martinez has been notified and orders you to stand down. Repeat, stand down and return to patrol." Sarah's finger hovered over her radio. In 6 years of service, Max had never been wrong, not once. The decision crystallized as she watched her partner, still laser-focused on the machine. "Dispatch, negative on stand down. Requesting immediate backup and CSI unit. Possible..." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "Possible human trafficking indicator." That would get their attention. Any mention of trafficking automatically triggered federal protocols. She crouched beside Max, keeping her voice steady. "Show me, partner. Where?" Max pawed at the lower right panel, his claws making distinct sounds against what should have been solid metal. Sarah pressed her ear against the surface, and in the midnight quiet, she heard it, a sound that turned her blood to ice. Breathing, shallow, muffled, but unmistakably human breathing. "Dispatch, upgrade that backup request. We have confirmation of..." The rest of her transmission was cut off by the sudden screech of tires. A black SUV with tinted windows swerved around the corner, its engine roaring as it accelerated toward their position. Sarah had just enough time to shout, "Max, defend!" before the night exploded into chaos. The SUV's window rolled down and the muzzle of a rifle emerged from the darkness. Max's training kicked in instantly. He launched himself between Sarah and the vehicle, his bark now a full-throated war cry. Sarah drew her weapon in one fluid motion, muscle memory taking over as she sought cover behind a concrete planter. The first shots shattered the quiet of Peachtree Street, but they weren't aimed at Sarah or Max. Instead, they targeted the vending machine itself, the impacts precise and methodical, not random fire. They were trying to destroy specific parts of the machine. Sarah's return fire was measured, aimed at the SUV's tires. 2 shots found their mark, sending the vehicle into a wild skid. It fishtailed dramatically before crashing into a light pole with a thunderous impact. As backup sirens wailed in the distance, Sarah knew with grim certainty that this was just the beginning. Whatever she and Max had stumbled upon, someone was willing to kill to keep it hidden. The machine's hum had stopped, replaced by a new sound, a faint tapping from within the metal walls. Sarah met Max's intense gaze, seeing her own determination reflected in his eyes. They had found something big, something ugly, and now there would be no walking away. "Good boy, Max," she whispered, reaching down to scratch behind his ears as red and blue lights began to paint the street in emergency colors. "Looks like our quiet patrol just turned into something else entirely." The night was about to get very long, and Sarah had a sinking feeling that this was only the first move in a much larger game. But with Max at her side, she was ready to see it through, no matter where it led them. Dawn painted Atlanta's skyline in shades of grey as Sarah stared at the evidence board in her cramped office. Crime scene photos from the previous night's incident covered half the wall, the shot-up vending machine, the crashed SUV, and most disturbing of all, the hidden compartment they'd discovered, empty by the time they'd gotten it open, but bearing unmistakable signs of recent human presence. Max lay at her feet, alert despite their sleepless night. His ears perked up at approaching footsteps moments before a knock rattled her door. "Officer Collins." A young tech from the forensics lab appeared, clutching a tablet. "You're going to want to see this." Sarah followed him to the lab, Max padding silently beside her. The tech pulled up thermal imaging scans of the vending machine's interior. "Look at these heat signatures. The compartment wasn't just designed to hold people. It had an active ventilation system, temperature control, even a rudimentary waste management setup. This isn't amateur work." "What about the company?" Sarah asked, studying the complex engineering displayed on the screen. "Atlanta Smart Solutions LLC? Shell company. Incorporated 3 months ago. Paperwork looks perfect, but dig any deeper and it all falls apart." He swiped to another screen. "Here's the weird part. The digital signature authorizing the installations, it's Captain Martinez's, but the timestamp shows she approved it while she was supposedly on vacation in Cancun." Sarah felt Max tense beside her. Her partner had always been wary around Martinez, though Sarah had dismissed it as normal canine caution. Now she wondered if he'd sensed something all along. "Keep this quiet," she told the tech, "and send everything to my secure email." Back in her office, Sarah pulled up the city planning maps. 23 new vending machines had been installed across Atlanta in the past month. If they were all equipped with similar compartments, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Detective Collins." The voice was digitally altered. "Your dog has an impressive nose, but curiosity can be dangerous for both of you." The line went dead. Max's growl rumbled through the room. Sarah checked her weapon out of habit, then grabbed her keys. "Come on, partner, time to do some shopping." They spent the next hours investigating other machine locations, keeping their distance, observing. Max's behavior confirmed her suspicions. He reacted to certain machines the same way he had the night before, while completely ignoring others. At their 4th location, in a quiet business district, Sarah noticed the security cameras. Too many of them, all focused on the machine. As she took photos with her phone, a private security SUV rolled into view. "Max, hide," she whispered, ducking behind a planter. The SUV crawled past their position, its occupants scanning the area with professional precision. These weren't rent-a-cops. Their movement spoke of serious training. Her phone vibrated again. Another unknown number. "Last warning, detective. Next time we won't miss." Sarah's jaw tightened. "Max, we need to move. Now." They barely made it back to her unmarked car before two more SUVs appeared, boxing them in. Sarah gunned the engine, tires squealing as she mounted the curb. Max braced himself in the back seat as they shot through a narrow alley. One of their pursuers clipped a dumpster trying to follow, buying them precious seconds. Sarah used every trick she'd learned in tactical driving courses, finally losing them in a maze of side streets. When they finally stopped in a safe location, Sarah's hands were shaking, not from fear, from anger. She pulled out her laptop, accessing the files the tech had sent. "Look at this, Max." She pointed to a document showing the machine installations. "Every location, every permit, all signed off by Martinez. But here's what they didn't count on." She pulled up another file, an old case from 2 years ago. A human trafficking ring they'd busted had used similar tactics. Legitimate businesses as fronts, high-tech concealment, precise timing. The signatures were different, the companies were different, but the pattern... Max's ears suddenly pricked forward. Sarah heard it too. Footsteps in the parking garage, multiple sets trying to move quietly. "Good evening, Detective Collins." Captain Martinez's voice echoed off the concrete walls. "We need to talk about your unauthorized investigation." Sarah's hand moved toward her weapon, but Martinez's next words stopped her cold. "I wouldn't. My associates are already in position, and they have orders regarding that remarkable dog of yours. So why don't you step out of the car, nice and slow, and we can discuss your career options." Time seemed to freeze as Sarah weighed her options, but then she felt Max's presence behind her, solid and unwavering, and clarity came with it. They'd walked into darkness together before. They'd do it again. "Max," she whispered, her hand finding his fur. "You ready?" His answering rumble was all she needed to hear. Sarah reached for her phone, activating the emergency recording app she'd installed earlier. Whatever happened next, there would be evidence. "You know what they say, Captain," she called out, her voice steady. "Never corner something that's trained to bite back." The garage erupted into chaos as Sarah and Max prepared to fight their way out. But even as the first shots rang out, Sarah smiled grimly, because now she knew they weren't just dealing with traffickers, they were dealing with corruption in their own department, and that changed everything. Sarah's hands trembled as she inserted the key into her apartment door. The firefight in the parking garage had been close, too close. If Max hadn't warned her about the second shooter, if she hadn't activated her bodycam's direct upload feature, if the backup she'd quietly called hadn't arrived when it did, 3 inches to the left, and neither of them would have made it home. Max limped slightly beside her, favoring his left hind leg where a bullet had grazed him. The vet had cleared him, but Sarah couldn't shake the image of him taking that hit while protecting her. Inside, she headed straight for her bedroom closet. Behind her uniforms hung a steel lockbox, one that hadn't been opened in nearly 3 years. Max watched intently as she pulled out a worn case file, its edges softened by time. "Remember this one, boy?" She spread the contents across her bed. "Our first case together." Crime scene photos spilled out, a warehouse in downtown Atlanta, shipping containers modified with hidden compartments, young women's faces captured on grainy security footage. And one photo that still haunted her, Elena Rodriguez, 16 years old, found too late. The image showed a bright-eyed girl with dreams of becoming a doctor, dreams that would never be realized. Sarah remembered that night with painful clarity. She'd been a rookie patrol officer then, working alone, when she'd spotted suspicious activity at the warehouse. The summer air had been thick with humidity. Protocol said to wait for backup. She didn't. By the time she fought her way inside, most of the traffickers had fled, but they'd left something behind. A shipping container full of girls, its ventilation system deliberately damaged. Only Eleanor didn't make it out alive. They found her at the back of the container where the air had been thinnest. The medical examiner said she'd fought until the very end, trying to help the other girl stay calm, even as she struggled to breathe. The investigation that followed revealed an extensive trafficking network, but the masterminds were never caught. Sarah had pushed too hard, asked too many questions, until her superiors shut her down. She'd even tried going to the media, but somehow the story never made it to print. A week later, she was transferred to the K9 unit, a move meant to sideline her. Instead, she met Max. That first day at the training facility, something just clicked between them. Maybe they both recognized the same drive for justice in each other. Her phone buzzed, jolting her back to the present. A text from an encrypted number. Storage Unit 247, Riverside Facility, midnight. Come alone if you want answers about Elena. Max's growl matched her own suspicion, but as she studied the old case photos, something clicked. The ventilation system in that shipping container, it was crude, but the basic design matched what they'd found in the vending machine. The same brutal efficiency, just refined and modernized. Sarah booted up her laptop, pulling up the files from both cases. Look at this, Max. She arranged the photos side by side. Same engineering signature. Someone's been refining their technique for years. She dug deeper into Elena's case file, looking at it with fresh eyes. The original investigating detective? James Martinez, Captain Martinez's husband, now retired. And the company that owned the warehouse, a subsidiary of another shell corporation. Its paperwork approved by then-Lieutenant Martinez herself. They've been at this for years, Sarah whispered. Elena wasn't a failure for them. She was a learning experience. They've just gotten better at hiding it. Her hands clenched into fists as she realized how long this had been going on. Max's ears suddenly perked up. In the silence of her apartment, Sarah heard it too, the faint click of her front door lock being picked. They moved as one, Sarah grabbing her backup weapon as Max took up his defensive position. The door swung open slowly, revealing a familiar face that stopped Sarah's finger on the trigger. Detective Chen, her old partner from Homicide, stood in the doorway, hands raised. His face was drawn, showing the strain of too many sleepless nights. We need to talk, Sarah. About Eleanor. About Martinez. About everything. Max's posture remained alert but not aggressive. He knew Chen from their previous cases together. Sarah kept her weapon ready, but nodded for him to continue. I've been working this case since you were transferred, Chen said, closing the door quietly behind him. Building evidence, following money trails. Martinez isn't just corrupt. She's been running this operation for a decade. The trafficking, the shell companies, all of it. These vending machines, they're just the latest evolution. He pulled out a flash drive. Everything's here. Bank records, surveillance footage, witness statements, things they thought they'd buried, but they know I have it. I've got maybe an hour before they come for me. Sarah's tactically trained mind raced through the implications. The storage unit message, it's a trap. Has to be. They're desperate now. That shootout at the garage, your body cam footage is already trending on social media. They can't make this disappear like they did with Elena. A car engine rumbled outside, then another. Max moved to the window, his hackles rising. Back door, Sarah commanded, grabbing her go-bag from under the bed. It contained everything she needed for situations exactly like this. Cash, burner phones, extra ammo. There's a safe house, Chen said as they moved. Off the books. I'll text you the window exploded inward as the first shots ripped through the night. Sarah felt the impact as Chen shoved her down, heard Max's warning bark mix with the sound of breaking glass. When she looked up, Chen was on the floor, blood spreading across his chest. His hand pressed the flash drive into hers, his voice barely a whisper. Find the girls, Sarah. Finish it. For Eleanor. Then he was gone. Sarah forced herself to move, to run, even as grief and rage threatened to overwhelm her. Max stayed close, guiding her through the darkness of back alleys as sirens filled the night. They'd killed Chen, just like they'd killed Elena, just like they'd kill anyone who got too close to the truth. But this time was different. This time she had evidence. This time she had Max. And this time, Sarah swore as they disappeared into the shadows of Atlanta, there would be nowhere for Martinez and her organization to hide. Sarah's fingers flew across the laptop keyboard in the dim light of the motel room. The flash drive Chen had died to give her contained enough evidence to bring down Martinez's entire operation, if she lived long enough to use it. Max lay by the door, his ears constantly moving, tracking every sound from the parking lot outside. They'd switched motels twice since Chen's death 6 hours ago, paying cash, using fake names, old habits from their undercover days. The files on the drive told a story more horrifying than she'd imagined. Martinez hadn't just corrupted the police department. She'd built an entire network within it. Officers assigned to human trafficking cases were carefully chosen. Investigations steered away from certain areas. Evidence conveniently lost. "Look at this, Max." Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. Shell companies, all connected to Atlanta Smart Solutions. Money flowing through offshore accounts, then right back into city development projects. She pulled up another document. And these maintenance schedules for the vending machines, they're not servicing them, they're moving people. Max's head snapped toward the window, a car engine idling too long in the parking lot. Sarah quickly backed up the files and pocketed the drive. Her burner phone vibrated. "You have something that belongs to us. Final chance to walk away. 1 hour. Storage unit 247. Sarah deleted the message. The storage unit was obviously a trap, but it might also be their only lead to the victims. She pulled up the building plans Chen had included on the drive. Riverside Storage was an old facility, minimal security, lots of blind spots. Perfect for their kind of operation. "We need to—" She stopped as Max suddenly stood, hackles raised, staring at the wall that connected to the next room. Sarah pressed her ear against it and caught fragments of conversation. "Track them to this block. Martinez wants it done quiet. Take the dog out first." Sarah grabbed her go-bag. They'd trained for this. "Max, escape route 2. The bathroom window was small, but they'd managed tighter squeezes. Sarah went first, then helped Max through. They were running across the back lot when the first shouts erupted behind them. No shots fired. They really did want to keep it quiet. That was their mistake. Sarah pulled out her phone as they ran, sending the entire contents of Chen's flash drive to every news outlet in Atlanta. Let them try to bury this story. They cut through back alleys, taking the long way to Riverside Storage. If Martinez's people were watching the storage unit, they'd be expecting Sarah to either show up on time or not at all. They wouldn't be ready for her to arrive early. The facility's security gate was unguarded. Too easy. Sarah checked her watch. 40 minutes until the deadline. Time to set their own trap. Find them, Max. He worked the perimeter methodically, nose to the ground. Most of the units smelled abandoned, but 5 had been accessed recently. Sarah photographed their numbers, cross-referencing them with the maintenance schedules from Chen's files. Unit 247 was among them. Max stopped at the end of the row, growling softly. Sarah heard it too. Voices from inside one of the units, female voices, speaking what sounded like Russian. The sound of approaching vehicles cut through the night. Sarah counted at least 3 engines. Time was up. She touched her radio. The real one, not the burner. "Officer Collins to dispatch. Officer in distress at Riverside Storage. Multiple suspects, possible trafficking victims on site. Send tactical units. Full response." "Collins, you're suspended. Check your emails. Every news station in Atlanta just got proof of Captain Martinez's involvement in human trafficking. Chen's evidence, full investigation files, everything." A long pause. "Copy that. All units responding." Sarah knelt beside Max. "Ready to end this, partner?" The storage unit door burst open. Martinez herself stepped out, flanked by armed men. Her face showed no surprise at seeing Sarah early. "I knew you wouldn't be able to resist playing hero again." Martinez's smile was cold, just like with Elena. "How'd that work out?" "Better this time." Sarah nodded toward the facility's entrance, where police lights were already reflecting off the walls. "A lot better." Martinez's smile faltered as multiple SWAT teams moved in, weapons raised. Her security team hesitated, caught between their boss and a dozen laser sights. "It's over, Captain." Sarah kept her weapon trained on Martinez. "The evidence is already public." Chen made sure of that. Martinez moved faster than Sarah expected, drawing a concealed weapon. But Max was faster. He launched himself at Martinez's arm, his jaws clamping down with trained precision. The gun clattered away as more officers swarmed in. An hour later, Sarah watched as Martinez was led away in handcuffs, her empire crumbling around her. The storage units had yielded 32 trafficking victims, all of whom would testify. The vending machine network was being dismantled across the city. Max sat beside her, alert despite his exhaustion. Sarah scratched behind his ears. "You know what, boy? I think Elena would be proud of us." But their work wasn't done. Martinez's network was vast, and some of her allies were still out there. Sarah could feel it in her gut. This was just the beginning of a much bigger fight, and she wouldn't have it any other way. The Atlanta Police Department's holding cells weren't meant to house high-profile suspects like Captain Martinez. But as Sarah watched through the two-way mirror, she knew this was exactly where the former captain belonged. Max sat alertly beside her, his eyes fixed on Martinez. Even behind bars, the woman radiated cold authority, as if she were still giving orders from her office. "She's not talking," Detective Rodriguez said, joining them at the window. "Not to internal affairs, not to the FBI. Nothing." Sarah nodded. "She doesn't have to. Chen's evidence is enough to—" "Chen's evidence is gone." Sarah's head snapped toward Rodriguez. "What?" "Server crash at the news stations, coordinated cyber attack. Even our backup files were corrupted." He lowered his voice. "Someone very powerful wants this buried, Sarah. Someone above Martinez." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. Max sensed her tension, pressing closer against her leg. "The victims," Sarah said. "Their testimonies. Being discredited as we speak. Immigration status challenges, sudden criminal records appearing out of nowhere. Someone's trying to tear down every piece of evidence we have." Sarah's mind raced. If Chen's digital evidence was gone, they needed something physical, something they couldn't erase with a keyboard. "The vending machines," she said suddenly. "The original blueprints would have been filed with the city planning office. Paper copies." Rodriguez shook his head. "First place we checked, files were accidentally destroyed in a sprinkler malfunction last night." Sarah smiled. "But not the machines themselves. Max, remember that sound? The weird hum from the first machine?" The dog's ears perked up. "The ventilation system," Sarah continued. "It wasn't just for air. It was hiding the sound of generators, backup power supplies." She turned to Rodriguez. "They wouldn't have had time to clean everything. The machines themselves are evidence." A commotion down the hall interrupted them. Officers were rushing toward the entrance, weapons drawn. "Report of an armed threat in the lobby," someone shouted. Sarah's instincts screamed, "It's a diversion. Max, watch!" The lights went out. In the darkness, Sarah heard the distinctive click of a cell door opening. She drew her weapon, but emergency lights were already flooding the corridor with disorienting red pulses. Martinez's voice cut through the chaos. "Should have walked away, Collins, like you walked away from Elena." Sarah moved on instinct as gunfire erupted. Max's warning bark saved her from the first shot, but the second clipped her shoulder. She rolled behind a desk, returning fire. Through her earpiece, she heard dispatch reporting multiple officers down in the lobby. The diversion was turning into a real firefight. "They're here for the machines," Sarah realized. "Rodriguez, they'll destroy them before we can—" A bullet splintered the desk beside her head. "Running out of time, Collins," Martinez called out. "You really think you can stop what's coming? We own this city." Sarah touched her wounded shoulder. The pain helped her focus. "Max, find!" The dog disappeared into the shadows. Martinez's mocking laugh echoed off the walls. "Sending your dog to do your job again? That worked so well with Elena, didn't it?" Sarah heard Max's bark. Not an attack bark, but the special signal they'd developed. He'd found something. Actually, Sarah called back, it worked perfectly. She triggered the fire alarm. Sprinklers erupted overhead, and in that moment of confusion, Sarah heard exactly what she needed. Martinez's gasp of surprise, giving away her position. Sarah fired twice. Martinez went down, clutching her leg. The emergency lights revealed Max standing over a fallen gunman near the evidence room, the man's weapon knocked away. More importantly, monitoring screens showed the lobby attack for what it was, a pre-recorded video loop. "Building secure," Rodriguez called out. "All units reporting in. No real attack." Sarah approached Martinez, who was still trying to reach a phone she'd dropped. "Calling for backup?" Sarah kicked the phone away. "Let me guess. Someone who could make evidence disappear? Someone who could create fake criminal records and destroy city files?" Martinez spat blood, but her eyes showed fear for the first time. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," she hissed. "He'll kill me for failing." "Who? Nathan Brooks?" Martinez laughed, a harsh sound. "Brooks? He's nothing. A front, the real power." The window behind them exploded. Sarah felt the impact before she heard the shot, throwing her backward. Max's snarl mixed with shouts of "Sniper!" Through blurring vision, Sarah saw Martinez crawling toward the fallen phone, but Max was faster, snatching the device in his jaws. "Secure the building!" Rodriguez was shouting. "All units respond!" Sarah forced herself up. The vest had caught the round, but her ribs screamed in protest. Martinez was laughing again, but it sounded desperate now. "You can't stop this, Collins. The machines are being destroyed as we speak, all of them. No evidence, no witnesses, no case, just like Elena." Sarah checked her phone. A new text showed a single image. Nathan Brooks, entering the Smart City Control Center downtown. "That's where you're wrong." Sarah handcuffed Martinez to a pipe. "This time we know exactly where to look. Max, come!" They had one chance to end this, one chance to find out who was really behind it all. Sarah touched her radio as they ran. "All units converge on the Smart City Center, and someone get me everything we have on Nathan Brooks's boss." The night wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. The Smart City Control Center loomed ahead, its glass facade reflecting the flashing lights of police vehicles surrounding the building. Sarah touched her aching ribs, where the sniper's bullet had struck her vest, as she studied the security feed on her phone. Nathan Brooks was still inside, along with at least a dozen armed guards. "All units hold position," she commanded into her radio. "Wait for my signal." Max's ears were forward, his body tense. He could smell what the thermal cameras confirmed. There were people inside the vending machines in the lobby. Living cargo, waiting to be moved. "This ends tonight, boy." Sarah checked her weapon. "Ready?" The building's security system had already been disabled by the FBI's cyber team. They slipped in through a service entrance, Max leading the way, nose to the ground. The lobby was empty except for two new vending machines flanking the elevator. As they passed, Sarah heard the faint sounds of breathing from within. Her blood boiled. Even now, with police outside, they were still moving victims. They took the stairs. Brooks's office would be on the top floor, where Martinez's source said the real control center was hidden. Each floor they passed showed signs of hasty evacuation, papers still warm in shredders, computers wiped clean. On the 20th floor, Max froze. Sarah heard it too, voices from behind the executive suite's doors. "Need more time to clear the servers." He's already been notified of Martinez's failure. "What about the girl and her dog?" Sarah smiled grimly. "Time to introduce themselves." "Max, shock and hold." She kicked the door open as Max burst through, a blur of focused aggression. The guards barely had time to reach for their weapons before the dog was among them, a precision attack that disabled without killing. Just as they'd trained, Sarah moved in behind him, taking down two more guards with quick shots to their legs. Nathan Brooks stood behind his desk, surprisingly calm, straightening his tie. "Officer Collins, I was wondering when you'd make it up here. On your knees, Brooks, it's over." He smiled. "Is it? The evidence is gone." Martinez will never testify, and in about 3 minutes, this building's servers will be wiped clean. You really think we came here for computers? Sarah nodded to Max, who was keeping the guards covered. We came for the machines, the ones in your lobby right now, the ones full of people. Brooks's smile faltered. See, that's the thing about physical evidence, Sarah continued, moving closer. You can't hack it, can't delete it, can't make it disappear with a keyboard. You have no idea what you're dealing with, Brooks said, but sweat was beading on his forehead. Do you know who really runs this operation? Do you know what he'll do? The window behind him exploded. Sarah dove for cover as a helicopter rose into view, its spotlight blinding. A figure stood in the open door, weapon raised. Actually, a familiar voice called out, I know exactly what I'll do. Sarah's blood ran cold. She knew that voice. Police Commissioner Wilson stepped into the office, his custom rifle trained on Sarah. You've caused quite a mess, Officer Collins, just like you did with the Elena Rodriguez case. The pieces clicked into place. Wilson had been chief of police back then. He'd personally shut down her investigation. You, Sarah breathed. You're the one Martinez was afraid of. Smart girl. Always were. Too smart for your own good. Wilson's smile was colder than Martinez's had ever been. You should have stayed in the K9 unit, Sarah. Should have learned your lesson the first time. Like Elena? Was she a lesson too? Collateral damage. Unfortunate but necessary. This operation funds half the city's budget. Did you really think we did all this just for profit? He gestured around the high-tech office. This is about power, control, the future. Sarah's hand inched toward her backup weapon. The future's changing. Right now, FBI teams are entering every smart city facility in Atlanta. They're finding victims, living evidence. And they'll keep finding them, Wilson said calmly. Because this is bigger than Atlanta, bigger than you can imagine. Someone will take my place. The operation will evolve. The machines will get even better at hiding what they carry. Maybe. Sarah's fingers closed around her weapon. But you won't be around to see it. Several things happened at once. Wilson fired, but Sarah was already moving. Max launched himself at Brooks, who was reaching for a hidden weapon. And through the broken window, tactical teams rappelled in on zip lines, weapons ready. Sarah's shot caught Wilson in the shoulder, spinning him into the helicopter's door. The pilot, seeing police snipers taking position on nearby buildings, immediately pulled away. Wilson clung to the skid, his face twisted with rage. "Take the shot!" he screamed to his pilot. "Kill them all!" The helicopter's minigun began to spin up. Sarah's next shot was perfect, through the engine housing into the fuel line. The helicopter lurched, smoke pouring from its rotors. As it spun away from the building, she saw Wilson lose his grip, plummeting 20 stories to the plaza below. "Sarah!" Brooks was on his knees, Max's jaws locked on his arm. "I can still help you. I know things, names, locations, connections." She approached him slowly, remembering Elena's face, remembering Chen's last words. "You know what, Brooks? I don't need your help." She nodded to the tactical team securing the room. "I have all the evidence I need right here." The sunrise painted Atlanta's skyline as Sarah watched FBI teams leading victims out of the building. Brooks and his surviving guards were in custody. Martinez was singing like a bird, hoping for a deal. And in evidence lockup, dozens of vending machines were being dismantled, their dark secrets finally exposed. Max sat beside her, alert despite his exhaustion. She scratched behind his ears. "We did it, boy. Really did it this time." Her phone buzzed, a message from Rodriguez. Wilson's body had been recovered. In his pocket, they'd found a phone with connections to trafficking operations in 12 cities. This was bigger than Atlanta, Wilson had said, and he'd been right about that at least. Sarah looked at Max, saw the same determination in his eyes that she felt in her heart. "What do you say, partner? Ready to take this show on the road?" His tail wagged once, decisively. They had more work to do, more machines to find, more lives to save. But first, Sarah had a grave to visit, to tell Elena that justice had finally been served. The sun climbed higher, burning away the last shadows of night. Somewhere in the city, a new day was beginning, and for the first time in 3 years, Sarah Collins was ready to face it.